I'll take awesome new intros for 600, please.
We're done here.
Ever since the television was invented, it's been a center of attention in American society. Whether it be for the local news, an important press conference or speech, or purely for entertainment, people turn to television as a new form of communication. Now, I didn't watch that much TV as a kid, but when I did, it was always either a cartoon or a game show. Game shows have a certain appeal to them that can't really be explained. They often have crazy contestants, suave hosts, and stupidly memorable catchphrases. For some reason, game shows have always appealed to me greatly, so I made this list. Now, I have to make something clear straight from the get-go. What I consider to be a game show is any television series that features at least one person competing for cash or prizes. So, that means that I'm including reality game shows and talent game shows as well. Also, despite how much I love it, I'm going to exclude Total Drama, because it's more of a spoof than an actual game show. I'm also going to exclude Whose Line Is It Anyway, because even though it's classified as a game show, they're not actually competing for anything but laughs. Now that all that's been said, all you people out there who are biased and think there's no way a quiz show can be hardcore, take notes. Now, Greed is a game show that I'm honestly surprised isn't brought up more often. I mean, all the pieces are set right. It aired on Fox News Network, was produced by Dick Clark, and was hosted by the legendary Chuck Woolery. You'd think that alone would make it popular, right? Well, I guess not. However, despite being one of his least popular programs, I honestly think that this is Chuck Woolery's best work. The basic gist of the game Greed is that a team of 5 people answer a series of multiple choice questions for which there are many correct answers. Miss just one, and the game is over. The designated team captain can change answers if he likes, or end the game to avoid risking their winnings. After a few rounds, there's a Terminator question, in which a randomly selected contestant has the chance to eliminate a fellow competitor and take their share of the prize money, which can go up to
$2 million.
What I love about this show, though, is the atmosphere it gives off. The moody lighting, dramatic music, and suspenseful revealing of the correct answers makes for a uniquely hardcore quiz show, at least when you compare it to something like this. Now, when it comes to game shows, I'm not very fond of the more recent editions. However, there is one exception. The 2011 one-hit wonder Take the Money and Run. All you have to do to win this game is to hide a briefcase from professional detectives for 48 hours. Now, like Greed, this show is pretty hardcore. The concept of fooling a professional detective, the ruthlessness of the interrogators, and the overall atmosphere gave the show quite a unique experience. It was also pretty fun to play along at home. Now, you might be asking yourself, how would you play along with something like this? Well, think about it. How would you hide that briefcase, and what would you do to win? That concept was what kept me watching the show. However, there are a few things that kept it pretty low on this list. For one, it only aired 6 episodes before being cancelled, and for 2, the contestants ruined it for me. What I mean by this is that a lot of the contestants they picked were just stupid, and some of them managed to take the most hardcore of concepts and turn it into a crying drama fest. Well, if they ever bring this show back like they should, I'm looking forward to seeing 2 more people try to pull off the perfect crime.
Yeah, while you're at it, why don't you look for some flying monkeys? Maybe they left her here.
Now, don't expect to see too many standard quiz shows on this list. It's not that they're bad, it's just that I'm still pretty young, and I'm not exactly a trivia buff. I hardly ever answered a question right without guessing, so I never really related to shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or Jeopardy! There are, however, a couple of exceptions, such as the previously mentioned Greed and 1 vs. 100. I think the reason why this show appeals to me as much as it does is that it's the classic underdog scenario. As the title suggests, there's one person trying to outsmart a mob consisting of 100 people, some of which may be Mensa members, self-proclaimed trivia buffs, and even champions from other game shows. Now, on most quiz shows, the questions are pretty cut and dry. You either know the answer or you don't. That's it! And, as ignorant as I was as a kid, I usually didn't. But here, there's usually some kind of logic behind the answers. It's hard to explain, but at times, it's more of a logic game than a trivia game. The big problem I have with this show, though, is that only one person ever won the grand prize. On its own, that's not too bad. Challenge is a good thing. If anything, it kept you watching more. However, prior to this person winning the $1 million, they made a teaser trailer for the episode, which blatantly pointed out that he was going to win.
Gee, thanks. Now all the suspense is ruined.
Well, while it lasted, it was a fun quiz show that tested more than just your immediate knowledge of pointless trivia.
On your mark. Get set. Go!
Yeah, it's kiddie and yeah, it's stupid, but Double Dare is honestly one of the most nostalgic shows from my childhood. I watched this show day and night, and I even think I watched it religiously for a short period. It's just one of those wacky, over-the-top shows that kids can't help but be drawn into. The main idea of the show is that a group of 2 kids, or sometimes an entire family, would compete against another group to see who could get the most points. You got those points by answering questions. The trick was that if you didn't know the answer to a question, or wanted to risk it and bet that your opponent didn't, you could dare them to answer the question for double the money.
I double dare you!
If they got it wrong, you won that money. Then they could double dare you right back for quadruple the amount.
Well, I double dog dare you!
But let's be honest with ourselves. We didn't watch Double Dare for the questions. No, we watched it for the physical challenges. The physical challenges were always a joy to watch. They were pretty creative, lasted just the right amount of time, and always left a huge mess on the stage. They also had one at the beginning of each round to determine who would answer the questions first. And the biggest physical challenge of them all was the Slopsticle course. At the end of each episode, the team with the most points had one last challenge in front of them. 8 obstacles in 60 seconds. For each obstacle you passed, you got another prize. Some of the best prizes included vacations, a television set, a Nintendo 64, and even a sailboat. Unfortunately, ever since Nickelodeon Gas was cancelled, saddest day of my life, I've never seen this show again. Come on, Nickelodeon, wouldn't this be the opportune time to bring this show back for a new generation? You did it with Figure It Out, so why not this? I'd watch that! It might not be as good as it used to be, but it'd certainly be better than some of the other shows you put out in recent years!
I quit!
Sometimes, game shows serve as a way to relieve stress, whether by laughing at someone doing something stupid or watching people fall off of stuff. However, the big game show for stress relief for me was Robot Wars. It has robots destroying each other. What more could you possibly ask for? Now, excuse me for using this word again, but this show is hardcore. There's really not much I can say about it that you can't see by simply watching it. Well, I'll say what I can. Robot Wars is a series in which roboteers from all across the UK and even other countries come to duke it out against fellow robots. The main part of the wars is a tournament-style fight to the death, where you have to immobilize your opponent, either by flipping it onto its back, cutting off its power supply, shredding off its wheels, or a great number of other possibilities. Just look at the carnage going on that battlefield! Also, the arena has a great number of traps hidden within it, such as the Pit of Oblivion, a flipper, spikes, spinning grinders, falling objects, flame geysers, and the most notorious of all, the house robots. You do not want to mess around with the house robots. If you got dragged into their territory, you took some damage. That was just that. However, for those who wanted a bit more than just the crashing and bashing, there were a few other challenges the winning robots had to go through, such as the Gauntlet, the Trials, and my personal favorite, the House Robot Rebellion, where 3 team robots work together to take on 2 or more house robots. I swear though, my favorite part of this show is the announcer. He's so over the top, it's freaking hilarious.
They want to stay out of punishing range of Razor, dodging around Matilda, how about that? Tilda, you were far too slow there. To find out what we've got up our sleeve, we've got weapons like that and axle grinders and flamethrowers and torches and goodness knows what. And Ellie as well, obviously for the next jumps up and over as well. And I have to say, thank goodness Matilda is on fire. The spring is holding fast, will the bar go? The house robots came out to play, and they've enjoyed their picnic in the arena, and how? Let's go near the arena, sidewall 3 stack, we see what Bigger Brother can do! Oh, Barn! We've got the flipper as well, sorry, didn't we tell you about that? Haha, too late now, isn't it? Kill it off, you're a knight of the realm, sir! Get in, sir, and protect your duty! Look at Bigger Brother nipping around the arena, 12 miles an hour, catch me if you can! Catch me if you can! Thing has been clutched by dead metal! The wheels are spinning, but there's no one at home, boys! The blade is working again on S3! Obviously the spring was retarding it somehow! Who volunteers these days for anything? You did! Ha ha! We've got you now, says dead metal!
Oh, that's funny. Now, they did bring this show over to Nickelodeon Gas briefly, but I always preferred the UK version. Whatever your preference, if you're a fan of carnage and mayhem, Robot Wars will not disappoint you.
Total carnage! Total mayhem!
But what if I wanted a show that tested brains and brawn and wasn't made for little kids? Well, my friends, that show would be the Krypton Factor. Now, I didn't find this show until very recently, but it instantly became one of my favorites. It's got all that charm and appeal of the old school game show, but it's also got that sophistication that often comes with a British game show. The main idea of the show is to find a real-life Superman. To do this, several contestants from all across Great Britain compete in a tournament-style competition which tests their mental agility, response, observation, physical ability, intelligence, and general knowledge. In each episode, they create a unique challenge for the players that I can't imagine being able to prepare for beforehand. Ergo, this is one show that I honestly believe can only be won with raw talent, while other shows can be practiced and rehearsed and researched. My favorite parts of the show were always the intelligence and observation rounds, although physical ability wasn't too far behind. The classic series was always the best in my eyes. Ever since they revamped it in 1995, it seems to have gotten a lot easier. I mean, in the mental agility round, they went from computing and keeping track of 3 sets of numbers at once, to answering questions about shapes. Another example is physical ability. They went from simply seeing who came in first, to beating a target time based on your age and gender. So, if you're only 2 years older than some other guy, and you're a girl, and he beats you, you can still win the round! What kind of logic is that? Thankfully, they brought the show back to its roots in the 2009 revamp, but I still prefer the original series. Well, the Krypton Factor is a show that has a little bit of everything for you, and definitely deserves its self-proclaimed title as the toughest quiz show on Earth. Ah, Wheel of Fortune. Simply classic. You all know how to play, spin the wheel, hope for a high value, guess some letters, and try to figure out the phrase they spell. Yep, not much else to say here. Seriously though, Wheel of Fortune is one of the most iconic game shows out there. Right up there with The Price is Right and Jeopardy! The concept, as discussed earlier, is pretty simple, but insanely addictive to watch. Plus, the system made for a great chance to play along at home.
Hey Ma! Before and after 4 words, 17 letters, 2 N's, 1 V!
However, this show is also home to a great number of shouting at the screen moments.
Then you know that if you're using your brain, but you're not, are you? You're not using your brain.
Needless to say, Wheel of Fortune was always one of my favorites as a kid, but looking back on it now, it's pretty tame. And when it comes to a game show nowadays, I enjoy a little bit of craziness. Wheel of Fortune will always be one of the greatest game shows of all time, but now that I'm older, I'm not a terribly huge fan. And, interestingly enough, the same thing can be said for the next entry. Okay, I'll admit it. About 3 years ago, this would have been much higher on my list. In recent years, however, American Idol has really gone downhill. However, I still watch it every season, and have managed to get a ton of enjoyment out of it in the past. For those of you who don't know, American Idol is a talent search for the country's newest singing sensation. And, for a guy who often fantasized about making it big as a singer when he was young, this show obviously had a lot of appeal. My favorite episodes were always the auditions and Hollywood Week. At the auditions, I loved laughing at the bad singers and laughing harder at the judges' reactions, such as Randy Jackson's signature, "I'm putting a paper over my face so that the contestant cannot see me laughing at them." Most of all though, I really loved how unexpected some of the true talent was at the audition level. As for Hollywood Week, I looked forward to the group performances every season. Those groups usually went one of two ways. Either they were completely unexpected and awesome, or they gave you one last chance to laugh at someone. However, in the last few years, American Idol has started to deteriorate, and I'm pretty sure everyone knows why. None of the judges want to stay around! First, Paula Abdul left in 2009. Then they brought in Ellen DeGeneres and Cara DioGuardi to replace her. They both left in 2010, along with Simon Cowell. Freaking Simon Cowell! Then they brought in Jennifer Lopez and Steven Tyler to replace them, and now both of them and Randy Jackson left in 2012.
I'm not sure how they're planning to dig their way out of this one, but I think it's safe to say that American Idol is dying a slow death.
Well, whether this show sinks or swims, I'll still remember it for my nostalgia and some incredible musical performances. Now, like the Krypton factor, I didn't find this show until very recently. I mean, after all, this is a British show, and I didn't know what YouTube was until 2010. Anyway, The Crystal Maze. This was easily one of the most popular game shows in Britain in the early 90s, and it's very easy to see why. This show is so freaking addictive! Seriously, I've spent entire days just watching this show without even realizing it. The basic format of the show is that a group of people travel around a large maze of sorts, completing challenges along the way. These challenges are divided into 4 subcategories of physical, mental, skill, and mystery. These challenges were unique, fun to watch, and all were themed to the different areas of the maze. Because of that, this show never gets repetitive. Even when you see the same challenge a second time, it never gets old. It's also got that same charm that comes with the British game show. The host is lovable, the contestants are lively, the music is godly, the accent makes everything better, and it's all very sophisticated in a strange way. The aim of the challenge, as I mentioned earlier, is to obtain crystals, hence the name. For every crystal the team retrieves, they get 5 additional seconds inside the crystal dome, the final challenge at the end of every episode. Inside the Crystal Dome is a large fan and several pieces of gold and silver paper. If the contestants can manage to grab 100 or more gold pieces, subtracting 1 for every silver piece, they would win the grand prize. In short, this show has pretty much everything in it, and I really hope the rumors of a revamp turn out to be true. Number 11 is a tie. Not because I like them equally, but because they are so similar that they cannot be separated. Number 11 is both Minute to Win It and The Cube. Now for me, half the fun in most game shows is playing along at home. And in that respect, Minute to Win It owns. The basic idea of Minute to Win It is that the contestants compete in 10 challenges of increasingly higher difficulty. For each challenge you complete, you win more money, all the way up to the grand prize of $1 million. However, the trick is that these contestants have already been practicing these same challenges at home. How? Because all you need to play them are things you can buy at the supermarket. I was completely obsessed with these games for an entire summer, and I even applied to be on the show, despite being underage. Sadly, I never heard back.
It sucks to meet you.
As for the actual show, Guy Fieri was a great pick for a host, despite his culinary background. The contestants were quirky, the games were plentiful, and it was just a joy to watch. I even have the Minute to Win It video game. It sucks. But what about Minute to Win It's British counterpart, The Cube? Yeah, you guys are probably sick of British game shows by now, but this is the last show on the list that appears only in the UK. The format of The Cube is eerily similar to that of Minute to Win It. Contestants complete 7 different tasks, with 9 opportunities for failure. Each of these tasks is very, very simple, yet are designed to become extreme challenges under the pressure of the game and claustrophobia of the cube itself. Each task they complete earns them more money, accruing up to £250,000. Basically, think of this as a hardcore version of Minute to Win It. God, I hate that word. When you break it down, I prefer the Crystal Maze over the Cube, but Minute to Win It over the Crystal Maze. However, none of the above cracked the top 10. What are the top 10? Find out in part 2.